Hey, welcome in.
Welcome to the Arrowhead Addict podcast.
We are here coming to you live.
The Kansas City Chiefs are going to the Super Bowl. You only win a Super Bowl 2 times every 5 years, right? Oh! The warm-up act is over. Let's bring in Melissa Etheridge, massive Chiefs fan. Melissa.
Super Bowl champion, 2-time Pro Bowler, and Trent Green. Trent Green, how you doing?
Hey, what's going on, guys?
And he picked it up! He picked it up! He's gonna score!
And we'll see you next week. But until then, as always, go Chiefs. Welcome into the Arrowhead Addict podcast. It is the OG hour. Patrick Allen and the other OG, Matt Verderame, back here with you. Verderame, happy opening day. You expecting big things from the A's this year?
No, they suck. I really, for the first time in my life, I've basically given up on a team I rooted for and changed allegiances. I'm rooting for the Milwaukee Brewers. Here on out. They got the bases loaded right now with 2 outs against some guy for the Yankees who looks terrible. But it's a 2-2 count. I don't feel good about it. He's grounded out like a chump to end the inning. Anywho, the Brewers, I've gotten to know quite a few people at the organization. Actually, ironically, because they watch this podcast, and a lot of them are Chiefs fans. And so I'm pulling for the Brewers. They're super nice to my family. Going up there next Sunday to watch a game against the Reds, and so go Brew Crew. But down 2-1 right now to the Yanks.
Yeah, it's not a good start for me either. I'm obviously a Guardians fan. All the Kansas City watchers will be excited to know that the Royals are currently leading Guardians 3-0. Although we've got a guy on third base with Big Christmas up at the plate. By the way, are you familiar with this guy from the Guardians? Jackenzie Noel, his nickname is Big Christmas.
No,
where do you rank that?
It's a great name.
Hilarious nickname, right? I feel like back in the day, we used to work with a woman in our Chicago office, Carly Trainer. And she's doing some admin work for us. And she told me that her grandfather was a legendary Pirates player, Pie Trainer. Oh, wow. And I was really excited about that. And I was just thinking about how back in the day, man, the sports nicknames that they used to have, particularly in baseball, were incredible nicknames. I feel like we've really lost that art today.
I agree. Big Christmas is a great one. It's like Big Sexy with Bartolo Colon.
Yeah.
Really. I've come to feel like, how like when everybody talks about pharmaceutical companies, we're always like Big Pharma. I've come to find that if you add the word big in front of any industry, it's hilarious. Like if you've got to get like a new toilet for the house, like, getting soaked by big toilet.
Yeah.
Like it's just a whole, to say that you have to go buy a toilet, it's not funny at all. But if you're, got to get a toilet, big toilet's really holding me down. Like big anything is hysterical. Big power tool, big cereal. Whatever. Yeah. Big cereal, big car wash, like just anything, anything. If you throw big in front of it, it's hysterical. And somehow farmers are the only one that's gotten that. Like we need to be throwing it in front of the big toll booth. Like just, anything that you do that with, it immediately becomes hilarious.
Yeah, it is. And I feel like a name like Big Christmas, this is like gold for announcers, right?
Yes.
I mean, the things that you can, but Christmas has come early, a partridge and a pear tree. I mean, there's so many things when a guy goes yard with a name like Big Christmas that you can use. And I think that alone is why we need more nicknames in sports so that announcers can get in their bag a little bit and put out some really great calls.
We've gotten way too serious in sports. Like, yes. and God knows, like I take them super seriously, both professionally and in my fandom. But like, back when the A's were the Oakland A's, and I was still rooting for them because they didn't sell their soul yet to John Fisher. Josh Reddick was in a brutal slump one year. I forget if it was like 2013, 2014, right in there. They were good. And he started coming up the song, like whatever his pre-song was, whatever. It was like some run-of-the-mill song, some rap song. He started coming up to Careless Whisper, and he came up to the saxophone solo in it.
Yeah.
And he started just ripping the ball. Like he was hitting like for something for like a month. And that song, it was ridiculous. It was hilarious. It sounded like some like cheesy intro to like a romantic movie, but he was killing the ball, so he couldn't change it. And it became a whole thing. Like whenever he would come up, like the whole crowd would get into it. And like that's what makes sports fun. It's like stupid little stuff like that I feel like sometimes we get away from because it's like super serious. And this guy's trying to get this contract, and the fans are pissed at that guy because whatever he's gonna slump. But that kind of stuff, that's the stuff that makes it all worthwhile.
Yeah, I mean, like home of the Chiefs. It's so any time the Chiefs are in an away game, you have an instant like gauge on how well do we travel for this one. You go to Buffalo, you're going to hear a smattering if you're lucky. We're playing the Chargers, and it sounds like they're at Arrowhead. So it's I agree with you. Those kinds of traditions are fun. Baseball traditions are great because because of the reasons you mentioned. It's such a game of highs and lows, and some guys get maniacal. They start wearing the same underwear. Remember when the Red Sox were in the World Series against the Yankees, and they were all putting the pine tar on their helmets, and they just by the end of that World Series, they just all looked like completely ridiculous. You couldn't see the logo anymore. I love it. But we're here to talk about the Chiefs. And what were you going to say?
No, I saw Corey ask me, what's my thoughts on Iowa and Indiana? He knows. We did a power ranking on another pod, right? I said they're the two worst states in the union that I've visited, and they are. Yeah. They are. Yeah. They are. The only good thing about them is the speed limit's fast enough. You can get through them quicker. Oh, they're the worst. With all due respect to all of you people who live in Indiana and Iowa, I just want you to know that I love and respect you, but also know it's terrible.
Yeah, what I love about Indiana is I have to drive through it, of course, to get home to see my family in Ohio. And on the way to Ohio, it's all about how you're going to hell, like the billboards, the religious billboards. Yeah, and then on the way back, it's all about how Jesus loves you. It's just kind of hilarious to me.
I personally appreciate the dichotomy between Indiana's the same way. Like you get all these there's literally one billboard when I'm going to Indianapolis. It's all black with white lettering, and it just says "You're in hell." That's all it says, and you're like, and then you only know it's religious because there's like some subtext at the bottom, like blah blah blah, 1-800-Jesus, da da da. But then on the also every other thing is every other billboard is like deeply religious. So it's fine, whatever. But then every other one is like, hey, porn outlet.
Yeah,
and
that's true.
How do these two things jive? Every other outlet's like, hey, believe in God, believe in Jesus, but also porn. And my dad brought up a great point, so I never thought about this. You ever notice how all those those adult outlets, they're all right next to the highway?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So it's like if you get off and park there, shame. Everybody sees you doing it. Everybody's oh, that guy in the Corolla just got off and parked at the adult superstore. And then you got to walk out in front of the whole place. I actually look now, and if I see somebody walking out, I just start honking from the highway. I'm like, I want everybody to look and be like, there he is. There's Bob.
There's
Bob went there.
Yep.
It's great. It's so good.
And as Lucas mentioned, of course, Indiana also has the RV Hall of Fame, which I went to and bought you a T-shirt and said, we're going to have to wear our RV Hall of Fame T-shirts on the show one day. Yeah.
I have it. I haven't broken it out yet in public, but I do own it. Yeah. And
I still have on my phone pictures of some of the members of the RV Hall of Fame, which I sent to Verderame. Maybe one day we'll have to have a little slideshow on the show. All right, but let's talk about some Chiefs here. This is the Arrowhead Addict podcast, the OG Hour. We're going to get you through this offseason until Chiefs football is back, so don't worry. One of the things we like to do is ask for you to leave us a 5-star review over on Apple Podcasts or in Spotify. It helps us get more listeners here into the Arrowhead Addict podcast. We get more listeners, we make more money, we invest all that money back into the show, and we expand our Chiefs coverage for you. So it's win-win. So during the season, we were trying to get to 400 reviews on Apple Podcasts. You guys backed our play. We did it. Guess what? We're on the road to 450 now. So we need your help. Head on over to Apple Podcasts. Leave us a 5-star review. If you leave a written review or ask us a question, we'll read it on the show. And I'm going to do that right now from Jason England. And here's what she says. Born and raised in KC, now living abroad, Arrowhead Addict has become my staple in my weekly routine. The content is sharp, the analysis is balanced, and perhaps most importantly, it feels like home. As a woman and a lifelong Chiefs fan, I appreciate that the hosts bring passion without falling into tired stereotypes. My brother recommended it, and now It's how we stay connected across countries. Still searching for my Chiefs crew in London, but until then, this podcast is my tribe. Well, we hope you'll find your tribe and you'll still be listening to the Arrowhead Addict podcast. Yo, Chiefs fans out there in England, there's a whole Chiefs podcast the Foolish Club Media, I believe they call themselves now, publishes. You need to link up with those guys and form a little Chiefs bar out there in England, and then Verderame and I will come over and you can buy us a pint. How's that sound?
I mean, that was one hell of a review.
It's great.
I got to say, thank you. No, it's I've never been to England. I've always wanted to go. I always wanted to go to London specifically, but never been. But I'm not well traveled. I'm human garbage, really. God, have I ever been outside North America? I've been to the Bahamas. I've been to the Bahamas. That was like on a cruise. Like I got off for like an hour.
Yeah.
I've been to Canada. Again, that's North America.
Canada.
Never been to Europe. No, I'm garbage. I've never been off the continent except for like 10 minutes in Bermuda.
Yeah, I hadn't until FanSided got acquired by Minute Media, and then I got to go to Tel Aviv in Israel, which was, talk about your first trip, abroad. That was a pretty cool one. I got to see I got to tour Jerusalem and see some really amazing sites there. Just mind-blowing stuff, man. At any rate, so let's talk Chiefs. We're going to play true or false a little bit later. We're going to tackle some of the outstanding questions facing the Chiefs off season right now. Maybe a little bit of predictions, and we're going to test Verderame here and see if he thinks these are true or false. It's a fun thing to do in the off season. Before we do that, though, I wanted to talk about this thread that I found on Twitter. A lot of Chiefs fans are talking about it. It's from Scott Bauska, I think is how you pronounce his name. He's the founder and CEO of Field Vision. You can follow him at SBOUSKA2. Producer Richard's going to drop the link in the chat and the description as well for you guys to read this thread. But he's analyzing Mahomes' deep ball. He says since 2019, Mahomes' elite deep ball has clearly declined, but the numbers are way uglier than anyone realized. Deep ball accuracy fell from 51%, which was number one in the NFL, to 21%, which is dead last. He goes through, I'm not going to read every single tweet, but he talks about how essentially Mahomes was incredible with the deep ball. But then 2023 was a disaster. 31% completion percentage on 58 attempts. EPA per 100 plays dropped to 11.51. He only had one touchdown, 5 interceptions. And then it got worse in 2024. Now, I think if you're a Chiefs fan, right, you may have some hypotheses about some of the reasons why his deep ball probably starts with the name Tyreek Hill isn't quite as effective. But I know you saw the thread as well. A lot of people are talking about it. What's your take on this? Like, how much of it is personnel, which, to be fair to Mahomes, his offensive personnel at the wide receiver position has been atrocious.
It's not been good
for the last couple of years. And all he's done is take them to 3 straight Super Bowls. So on one hand, you don't want to complain, but how much of that you're viewing, Verderame, is like, yeah, it's bad, but some of it's Mahomes. Mahomes isn't accurate. He's had guys that he's missed. He's not making the most of his opportunities. What are you seeing out there with the deep ball from Mahomes?
I think it's a combination of a few things. I mean, look, obviously, I don't care who you are. You'll lose Tyreek Hill. Like, it's going to matter. I think it's a combination of Tyreek's not there. Teams just play too high, or at least were playing too high pretty much constantly against them. I think that's changed a little bit. But I also think, look, to be fair, last year, we talked a lot about this. Like, his connection with Xavier Worthy was just not good deep down the field. Like Nate, and sometimes it was on Worthy and sometimes it was on Mahomes. Sometimes Worthy would kind of drift and end up out of bounds. Other times Mahomes would lead him out of bounds or just flat miss him. So it's a combination of things. I don't look at it and just go, well, it's just this or it's just that. What I would say is, for as talented as Mahomes is, if I had to pick one weak spot in his game, that's probably it. Like, he's not a great deep ball thrower, which is weird considering, like, he's got such a cannon for an arm. It's not that he can't make the throws. It's that a lot of times I feel like he is more conditioned the last couple of years to just make the easy throw, check it down, which a lot of times is the right play. Like, a lot of times that's fine, especially with as good of a defense as they've had the last couple of years. And then to your point, look, lastly, obviously, yes, some of it is just they just haven't had receivers. I mean, the last 2 years, they've had 2 rookies be their main guy. Like that, and that is a hard thing for a quarterback because you don't fully have the chemistry yet. You don't fully have a fully formed route tree yet. You don't have a chemistry that you can rely on, especially 50, 55 yards down the field. So I think there's a lot of factors at play. But I asked Brett Veach about that straight up in Indianapolis. Like, look, he's 41st in the league in intended air yards per attempt. Like, the only 2 guys that were lower than him this year were Tua and now his teammate Gardner Minshew. That's it. Yeah. Like, it's a problem.
Well, and it's kind of fascinating, isn't it, that Tua was bad? Because when Tyreek went to Miami, the knock on Tua when Tyreek went to Miami was he can't throw the deep ball. He doesn't have a strong enough arm. And then the deep ball emerged. And so how much of this is when you have a weapon like that and the way that teams have started to play defense differently, that it's just not worth the risk of throwing that deep ball up, even if you have a guy like Tyreek Hill?
Right. No, I think again, a lot of this stuff also boils down to, the first couple of years of his career, I mean, teams just didn't know what to do with them. They were so incredibly ahead of everybody else. Teams it was like, all right, well, what do you do? When you have Kelsey on the field, it's like, what do? You got to pick your poison. Are you going to let Kelsey just kill you all game long? Or are you going to bring a safety down and kind of cheat the linebackers and then just let somebody go over the top on you? And that's changed. That's changed. The last couple of years, like Kelsey, especially last year, is not the same guy. Tyreek Hill is not on the team. But I don't think that Tyreek Hill not being there has to necessarily correlate to them not being explosive offensively. Like, if you go back to 2022, they're number 1 in the league in offensive explosive plays. And that was without Tyreek Hill. Like, they went 14-3, and it was mostly Kelsey and Juju and a little bit of MBS. And that was the offense. That was the way they played. And then in 2023, look, I mean, that year I put more on everybody else. I mean, they had no receivers who could catch.
Yeah.
So that to me is a free pass in a lot of ways from Mahomes in terms of deep balls. There was nobody to throw the ball to. This past year, I wonder how different things would have been, especially as the year went on with Rice and Worthy together. Because it never really, I know you could say, well, they played, 3 games and change together, but Worthy was just dipping his toe in the water. Like, they never really had, Worthy at that point was kind of a gadget guy early in the year. They never had a chance where, like, okay, Worthy's really come on, and now you have this combination. I'm very curious to see this year with those 2 guys if the offense looks a hell of a lot different.
Yeah, and I wonder, too, how much it has to do with how much a defense respects a quarterback and then the opportunities that they're given to have those deep ball throws. It was pretty clear that when Tyreek Hill first went to Miami, defenses didn't respect Tua. They were daring him to see if he could do it, and he did. And then things changed a little bit. They actually changed their offense, much in the way that the Chiefs did, where they started throwing a lot of shorter passes. They weren't going deep as much, and it was a little bit of an adjustment. I'm fascinated to see, Mahomes, he was getting deep balls off to guys besides Tyreek Hill, right? Like, he was getting deep shots to DeMarcus Robinson and Chris Conley and Sammy Watkins. So, like, and there were opportunities there. Do you think that the lack of opportunities that he's getting because of the way teams have changed their defenses against him have caused a lack of rhythm, so that, like, when he does get the shot, he sees those so less often than he did maybe early in his career? He's just not on this. And then you throw in rookies and Kadarius Toney and these things, and then it just kind of cascades from there.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, for sure. Look, I also think too, they have had an offense that has devolved because of the talent, but also because of the offensive line. I mean, last year they couldn't block. They could not block on the left side of the line. So, I've said this in a million places. I've said this here. I'll say it on my pod. I've said whatever. I've written it for SI. If the Chiefs get good play out of the left side of the line this year, I think they're the best team in football. I think they're stacked. But there's a world where that left side of the line just kills them. I mean, I honestly, I not only how well they play as a team, in general, like just like how they play offensively, how much the passing game improves. So much of it is going to be about the left side. What is Suamate at guard? What are they getting out of Moore at left tackle? Like that is going to determine so much. And, I think sometimes we overlook that because it's like, well, we got these receivers and the backs are good. Great. Your left tackle needs to block somebody. The left guard has to block. Like, if they can do that, I think they're in really good shape.
All right, let's play. I think that's a good segue to our game of true or false. I got a list of questions here. I'm going to lay it down to you, Verderame. You tell me if you think it's a true or false statement. I think I saw 3 different mock drafts today that had the Chiefs taking.
Sure they're all correct.
they're all dead accurate.
Yeah.
But all 3 of them had the Chiefs taking Ohio State tackle Josh Simmons at their spot at the end of the first round. So people think that he may fall because of the injury that he had last October, and he's still recovering from that. Might hurt his stock a little bit. Some people, our own Price Carter here at Arrowhead Addict, think that the Chiefs would avoid him because they like guys with a little bit longer arms than he has. He's kind of right at that line. If Ohio State tackle Josh Simmons falls far enough, the Chiefs should trade up and draft him. That's got to be into Brett Veach's comfortability range. Maybe that's 20 to 24. So that's the true or false question. If Ohio State tackle Josh Simmons or somebody else that they think could be their answer at left tackle falls far enough, the Chiefs should trade up and get him. True or false?
False. I got to tell you, I would be shocked if the Chiefs take a tackle in the first round. I will be absolutely on the floor shocked. And doing prep for the draft and with all the teams, but the Chiefs included, most people feel like this tackle class is atrocious. I mean, most people feel like, okay, you're going to get Membo out of Mizzou. Will Campbell, I know he measured with 33-inch arms at LSU. His wingspan is horrific for a tackle. Like, he does not have long arms. And most teams want guys with 34-inch arms. Okay. Will Campbell's at 33 and he's thrilled to death about it. Like, he was like 32 and a half the combine. And some people think he's tackled number 1 off the board. I think Membo will be, but we'll see. It's those 2 guys. Kelvin Banks out of Texas, he's probably going to be a guard. Like, a lot of teams will say they think he's a guard. Josh Simmons, Josh Connerly out of Oregon, I think are guys that are going to go in the mid-20s to 30s. But, yeah, look, Simmons is coming off of I believe an ACL injury. I don't know, I can tell you that a lot of teams in the league look at these tackles and just go, a lot of them are going to be guards, and a lot of them are not worth taking early. I do not think. I think if the Chiefs move up, I think it's going to be for a guy on the other side of the line. I think it's going to be for somebody on defense, a big time edge rusher, a big time D tackle. Although the D tackle class is loaded, they might just sit there and wait for somebody to come to them. Or the one thing that nobody's talking about with them, what about the corner? Watson's got 1 year left. He's had some injuries. He played through his shoulder injury in 2023, but he was hurt all year long with that. Last year, obviously, he got hurt. Christian Fulton's on a 2-year deal, but like, would they draft a boundary corner? Would they take a guy? Like if I'm just throwing a name, like Will Johnson of Michigan, if he fell to like 22, 23, would they, a la when they did it with McDuffie, would they move up? But my guess is they won't. I don't think they will move up because I think a lot of people in the league feel like picks 18, 19, 20 through like 70, not a huge difference. I think more teams are going to be trying to trade back than trade up.
The interesting thing that jumped out at me, and I was actually on the KCSN show yesterday with Haley, and we were talking about Josh Simmons. One of the things that's interesting to me, Lance Zierlein, who I really respect, his scouting reports over at NFL.com, he thinks he'll eventually be a plus starter. He's got a quote from an AFC personnel director who says he's really athletic and really talented. The knee injury robbed him of valuable playing time, but he's gotten better each year on tape. The thing that really interested me was Zierlein's comp for him was DJ Humphries. Now, we know that DJ Humphries isn't necessarily a guy the Chiefs really, really wanted, but they liked him enough to bring him into the building. And I just wondered, that's interesting. Do you bring in a guy like that? What if he falls to him? And then they can say, all right, like, we could let you work on your skill set for a year. Is your take on this just that they've invested so much in the tackle position at this point? It's just not good enough, that there's just going to be better value, even if somebody like that fell to them?
I just don't think they believe that these tackles are very good.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it was telling that Jalen Moore was assigned literally the second free agency opened. They had an agreement with Jalen Moore, I think legitimately 90 seconds into the tampering period. It came out, $230 million. I will be shocked if they take a tackle. I will be shocked. I'm not saying throughout the whole class. They may take one later on. I do not think they're going to take one early. And I think part of that is, look, they really are hoping that Jalen Moore comes in and plays well. I think, and if he doesn't, I think it's Wanya Morris time. Again, I think that's what it's going to be. Maybe they make a trade during the season, whatever. I do not believe, knowing what I know, that team is going to take a tackle in the first round. I will be shocked if they do it, man. Shocked. At 31, at 25, at 20, I will be shocked if they take a tackle.
I think a lot of the anxiety from fans comes from like, this is what the best bet is, a backup guy who's never started. Like it's nerve-wracking if you're a Chiefs fan, because well, let me move on here to my second true or false for you. All of that taken into account, if the Chiefs' current offensive line situation doesn't improve, they have no chance of winning a Super Bowl in 2025. True or false?
I'm sorry. I didn't hear the first part. Say the first part again.
Okay. If the Chiefs' current offensive line situation doesn't improve, so think of this case, Moore plays as well as DJ Humphries would have played for them last year, something along those lines.
Yep.
They have no chance of winning the Super Bowl in 2025.
Yeah, if their line's not better, they won't win a Super Bowl. I don't think it has to be demonstrably better, but I think that like it's got to be. It cannot be a massive Achilles heel. And their left tackle play last year was a disaster. If they get Donovan Smith level left tackle play, they can win the Super Bowl. They can win the Super Bowl. Even
with Kingsley at guard?
Yeah, because if you're getting decent left tackle play, you're getting great center play. And I think you can just do enough to help him that it's not. Look, Kingsley doesn't have to be Joe Thuney, and he's not going to be Joe Thuney. Can he just be just a solid player? Can he just go and, hey, man, like my goal for Kingsley Suamataia is that I don't hear his name ever. That's my goal for him. It's like in hockey. In hockey, when you've got like the great defenseman, the Joe Thuney of defensemen, like you hear his name because the guy is just constantly making an impact. But there's a lot of value in those defensemen. You never hear their name. They just do their job, man. Block a shot here and there, clear the puck, get it up the ice, don't turn it over, don't take a penalty. Those guys have value to a team. Like if Kingsley doesn't have a bunch of pancake blocks, but he's not taking penalties, he's not missing assignments, he's doing that, and he's just doing his job. Just play in, play out. Hey, man, nothing flashy, nothing extra, but just I'm going to go out and execute the block I need to execute. I'm going to go out. I'm going to make a play here or there. I'm not going to take a bunch of penalties. If he does that, he's fine. He's fine. What they can't have is him going out there and just it's a blow by. And it's, Mahomes is under immediate pressure 4 or 5 plays a game. And he's taking a holding penalty and he's jumping off. I mean, if Jawan Taylor didn't take all the penalties that he takes, you'd be fine with Jawan Taylor. The problem is Jawan Taylor takes 1 penalty every single game, literally on average. And so you're constantly like, oh, God, I don't want to hear your name for 1 game. It's rare that you see an offensive lineman who you're like, I hear about him all the time, and that's a good thing. You just don't want to hear about him.
Yeah. All right. Well, then that leads us into number 3. Kingsley Suamataia will be at least a league average starting guard next season. True or false?
At least they start at. I mean, I'll say false in the sense that I don't know that I can sit here and feel like that's definitely going to be the case. I think he will eventually be at least that. I said a lot last year when he got benched that I thought that his future was guard. Because if you watch the way he plays, the biggest issue he has is his foot speed. That doesn't matter nearly as much as at guard for obvious reasons. At guard, it's much more about technique and playing with power and being able to kind of, get outside and pull. And that's not really as much about foot speed as it is athleticism. And he has that. Like, I think he definitely could be a good to very good guard in time. Now, is that going to, I can't sit here though and say, yeah, absolutely next year he's a league average guard. I think that he probably will be. But look, there's a scenario where he's not good. Like, there's a scenario where we're sitting here after the second preseason game going, man, he can't play. Like, they just flat can't play him. And we're looking at Mike Caliendo week 1. I mean, that could happen. And I think that is the uncomfortable reality of this for Chiefs fans this year. This season, in my opinion, is coming down to 2 guys who you have absolutely no clue what you're getting. And it's 2 guys on the left side of Mahomes. I mean, it's 2 guys on his blind side. And it's, you know what you're getting. If Rice, Worthy, and Brown are healthy, you know what you're getting. That's a really good trio. You know what you're getting out of the backs and the tight ends. You know what you're getting out of that defense with Spags. You have no idea what you're getting out of Jalen Moore, who's made 12 career starts, and Kingsley Suamataia, who's made, 2, 3 starts in his career? Like, it's big question marks. Big question marks.
Shout out to Slam and Sam for the super chat. Says, next year, draft weapons heavily, fix the rest now. I kind of tend to agree with that. But it's always sexy to get a weapon here or there. So that actually is a nice segue into this next one. The Chiefs, true or false, Verderame, the Chiefs will draft a running back before round 7. Now, remember, I think they only have picks through the 4th round.
And then 3 in the 7th.
And then they have 3 in the 7th. So
correct.
I'm suggesting that they take, for running backs anyway, for them in recent times, a high draft pick running back. True or false?
True. I think they'll take one day too. This is, I said earlier the D tackle class is loaded, and I think it's probably the best position group in this class. I think the next best one is running back. I remember I was talking to people down in Mobile when I was at the Senior Bowl, and there was a thought that, like, this class is so good that if only half of these running backs were here, it would still be a really good class. So I think Ashton Genty of Boise State's going to go wait for the Chiefs get their hands on him. But after that, I think it's wide open. A Travion Henderson or a Judkins out of Ohio State. Of course, you're familiar with those guys. Yep. A Marion Hampton has gotten a lot of love at UNC. And then there's a billion other guys we could get into, right? But I mean, there's a lot of guys that you could look at, late day 1, early day 2. I am fascinated. Like, would Veach actually take a running back again in the 1st round? But my inclination is he wouldn't. But I think that turn from the 2nd to the 3rd, where they have their own 2nd, Tennessee's 3rd, that might be a sweet spot where you go, all right, let's take it back here. I will be very surprised if they don't take it back, considering the need and the amount of backs in this class.
Yeah, it's really fascinating. I think a lot of Chiefs fans have PTSD after the whole Clyde Edwards-Helaire thing. And anytime you even mention a running back at the end of the 1st round, they lose it. Some of the arguments that I've seen about this class are, why would you take a running back at the end of the 1st round when it's such a deep class? I think that's fair. But I also think it's important to think about the teams that need weapons at the skill positions. This is not a deep quarterback draft. So you're not going to get 5 quarterbacks or something like that in the 1st round. It's very unlikely, pushing those players back. It's also widely regarded as not a terrible wide receiver draft, but not a lot of top-end wide receiver talent. So, we could be looking at a situation here where, maybe you want to wait till the 3rd or 4th round to take a running back, but there could be a 2nd round run on these running backs for teams that want weapons. Well, the tight ends, there's not a ton of great tight ends either.
No, that's definitely true. Look, the one argument I always make with people, when you hear people say, well, this is such a deep class at X position, you might as well wait. And it's like, I don't know, man. Should you? Like, I get that argument, but let's take D tackle for a minute, okay? So, this class is loaded at defensive tackle. If the Chiefs are on the clock at 31 and they can take, I don't know, the 3rd or 4th best D tackle,
Derek Harmon.
Should they really wait? Like Matt Miller released his 7th round mock today on ESPN. And Matt is, if not the best, one of the best to do this. And so, first D tackle who's got off the board is Mason Graham at 5, right? Then you keep going a little bit, all right, and he doesn't have another D tackle go off the board until deep in the first round. In fact, Derek Harmon is that guy, 27 of Baltimore. And then he's got the Chiefs taking Mikael Williams, an edge rusher out of Georgia. But my point is, like, you know, if you're sitting there now, let's just say Kenneth Grant, who's got going 39. Some people think he might be a late first round pick. Let's say Chiefs love him, and you're like, okay, he's the third best D tackle in the class. Would you rather take that guy or wait to the end of the second round and get like the 8th best guy? I'd rather take the third best guy. Like, there's a reason that guy's going earlier. You know, if you're the Chiefs, you don't need 5 different players to make an impact off this draft class. Sure, that'd be awesome. That'd be great, you know, but you need 2 or 3 guys that can really play. Like, if you walk out of this class and you get a really good D tackle, maybe you get a rotational corner, and you get, like, I don't know, another receiver who you feel like can slot in and play some snap. Like, that's probably pretty good. Like that, yeah. They're not going to be the Giants who could have 9 starters come out of it. Like, if you're the Chiefs, that's probably pretty damn good. You'd probably be okay with that.
Yeah. All right. Next up, George Karlaftis. I actually asked you this during the same sequence last year. And I asked you if George Karlaftis would lead the team in sacks. And I believe you said false. I'm going to ask it to you again because he did. George Karlaftis will once again lead the team in sacks.
How many last year do you have? He had what? He had like 8.5, 9?
8, I think.
I'm going to pull it up real quick. He had, where's old George here? George had 8. Yeah, because Wharton had 6.5. Jones had 5. I'll say Jones leads it. I'll say false. Although I will add this caveat. I would not be surprised if Karlaftis really breaks out and has like 13 sacks or something. Like, I think that's in the cards potentially for him. I think quietly, you know, one thing that's really interesting with the Chiefs, if they take a defensive tackle early and the guy ends up being really good, that defensive line can be horrifying. I mean, you got Jones and then that guy plus Karlaftis and Amenahu and Dana and FAU. I mean, that have pretty good talent. Look, one thing about Karlaftis is he gets better as the year goes on every single year. He's actually led the league in the playoffs the last 2 seasons in sacks. I think I'd pencil him in for right around 10. I just think Jones has another big year or 2 in him. But if you said to me, does George get 10? Yeah, I think he gets to 10.
Yeah, I think you might be looking at a variant like last year as being a little bit of a variance year for Chris Jones. The pressures were there. There should have been more sacks. Sometimes it just doesn't work out that way. So, but I think Karlaftis, they might spread it out again. But I'm gonna go false. I do think Chris Jones gets that title back this year. Okay, the Chiefs will not have a 1,000-yard receiver for the 3rd straight year. True or false?
I think it's false. I think they will this year.
Who's it going to be? Is it Rice or is it Worthy?
How many games is Rice playing? I mean, that's the ultimate question here. I think Rice, even if he's suspended 3 or 4 games, I still think he's going to do it. I think that kid, like, if he didn't get hurt last year, there's a real argument that guy has like 1,600 yards last season. He was torrid to start the year. I'll do you one better. I think if Rice plays, I don't know, 14 plus games, 13 plus games, I think they might have 2 guys who have 1,000 yards. I think both might do it because Worthy, by the end of the season, Worthy was playing really good football. I mean, if you go and you look at his game log last season, early on, just like Rice as a rookie, wasn't going crazy, but then it really kind of took off. I mean, he finished the year at 638 yards. If you look again at the back half of the schedule, starting against Buffalo, 4 for 61, 4 for 46, 5 for 54, 5 for 41, 6 for 46, 7 for 65, 8 for 79. And then the playoffs, 6 for 45, 7 for 85, 8 for 157. Like, he, by the back half of the season, I know a lot of those numbers aren't like totally eye-popping. He was on pace at the end of the year, not including the playoffs, for about 1,000 yards. I think it's possible, man. I really do. Plus, I don't think Kelsey's going to demand the target share he has in the past. So, I think there's a world where both those guys get 1,000 yards.
I'm going true as well on this one because I'm already on the record as saying I think Travis Kelce bounces back and gets 1,000 yards. I know he's technically not a receiver, but he is a receiver for the Chiefs. So give me false on that one. Chiefs are going to get it done. Okay. Patrick Mahomes will throw for more than 4,000 yards and 30 plus touchdowns. True or false? Maisie, what do you think?
Yards.
I don't know what we're talking about.
Just say true or false. Patrick Mahomes will throw for 30 plus touchdowns at 4,000 yards. True or false?
What do you think? You think he throws for 4,000 yards next year? What do you got? Time's running out. Maybe. Good. You've got a future.
Wait, are people gonna see this?
People are watching it right now. We're live. Yep. You got it, champ. All right.
Like a troll.
Yeah, well,
actually,
it happens.
This is a troll headband, so.
Very nice. Are you? I'll be up in a little bit.
I look like the elders.
4,000 yards, 30 touchdowns. Well, if I'm thinking Rice and Worthy can crack it, I think the 4,000 yards is yes. The 30 touchdowns. What do you have this past year? Yeah, like 20.
28, maybe 26.
I was going to say, is that right? Okay, so yeah, I'll say true, man. I think you will. I think you will. You know, they're never going to be a team that like relies heavily on he had 26 touchdowns.
Yeah.
They're never going to be a team that runs the ball. They could have Walter Payton in the backfield, and Andy's going to be throwing it on 30 yard, right? Like, so I think he does. I mean, if you look at his career, obviously it's ridiculous. You know, he's played what has he started now? 7 years? Yeah. I mean, 5,097 yards, 50 touchdowns. Then he missed 2 games and threw for 4,000 yards and 26 touchdowns. Then he missed another game in 2020, the last game of the year, it didn't matter. 4,700 yards, 38 touchdowns, and 6 picks. Then 4,800 yards and 37 touchdowns in 2021. When for half the year they were awful offensively. 2022, his other MVP year, 5,200 yards and 41 touchdowns. Like, in 2023, when no one could catch the ball, he threw for 4,100 yards and 27 touchdowns, and he sat the last game. I mean, the funny thing is, even last year, had he have played the Denver game, he might have hit those numbers.
Yeah.
Like, he probably wouldn't have gotten the 30 touchdowns, but he would have hit 4,000 yards. He was at 39-28. So, like, yeah, I mean, the odds say that, yeah, like, he's probably going to throw for over 4,000 yards. Yeah, I think he throws for like 4,500 yards and 32 touchdowns, like somewhere in that range.
It just feels like I'm with you. I'm going true. Javi in the chat says he thinks Mahomes is going to bounce back. I do as well. I just feels like after that Super Bowl loss, the way it went down, the guy is way too competitive. He's legacy builder. At this point, he wants to win Super Bowls, and he's going to do what and if that means he throws 15 touchdowns, he's going to throw 15 touchdowns. But I just think after a couple years since his last MVP, people saying that you don't think Mahomes saw that stat about his deep ball? Like, he saw it. You trust me, he saw it. And if he didn't, Bobby Stroop, his trainer, printed it out on big boards and put it in the weight room. He cares about this stuff. It's meaningful to him. And he's not content with his career so far. He's legacy building. And I think that not only he, but I think Andy is going to be in the lab. And I think we're going to see an MVP caliber season out of Patrick Mahomes if the offensive line holds up, because I think Andy's going to cook up some new stuff. He's going to have year 2 Xavier Worthy. He's going to have Hollywood Brown, knock on wood, for the whole year. Right. And Rashee Rice. I think you're going to see a little bit of an offensive explosion maybe not what we saw early in his career.
Right. Well, look, too, I mean, also, man, like, I know that last year ended on a sour note, but you got to keep in mind, like, that was the 5th appearance in the Super Bowl for him. That stuff matters. Like, it matters. Yeah. I know, like, he didn't win and it wasn't his 4th title. I understand all that. It matters in this day. Like, did you get there? Because when we talk about Brady, a lot of times it comes up, he went to 10 Super Bowls. You talk about Elway, went to 5, he won 2 of them. Like, you talk about, Manning went to 4. It matters. It matters how many they went to. Like, and look, the other part of it too is, like, Mahomes at this point is chasing ghosts. Like, that's what he's doing. I mean, he's already commandeered a dynasty. He's won 3. I mean, the only guys who have ever won more Super Bowls ever than him: Terry Bradshaw, Joe Montana, Tom Brady. Like, he's won 3, and he went to more he's already been to more Super Bowls than Montana. He's been to already more Super Bowls than Bradshaw. The only guy who's ever gone to more is Brady. Elway went to 5 as well, right? But like the only guy to go to more is Tom Brady. So, it's funny. We spent all year last year saying, look, if they win, they're the greatest team of all time. If they win this year, they're the greatest team of all time. I mean, if they win the Super Bowl this year, and it's hard. It's not easy, obviously. That will mean they went to 6 out of 7 Super Bowls, and they won 4 of them, including going back-to-back. And that also means they would have, in all likelihood, won 10 straight AFC West titles and got to 8 straight, and this definitely would be true, 8 straight AFC championship games. You could do that in a video game.
Yeah.
That's impossible. And it's not, the other thing, just to say quickly, it's not as though they play in a conference where it's just total bullshit. And they're like, well, what the hell? Like, we got to win 1 game to get there. Like Brady, a lot of his years, and I'm not in any way, look, Brady was ridiculous. They pretty much had to beat Peyton Manning. Like a lot of years, it was like, hey, man, beat Manning. Or a lot of years, it was like, okay, right, maybe it's the Steelers a year or two. But like a lot of times, it was if you beat Manning, you go to the Super Bowl. They always had a bye. They never went to the Super Bowl without a bye, ever. Yeah. So they always had a bye. They played in an awful division. And it was always like, look, if you beat Peyton, you go. And in a lot of the years where they went to the Super Bowl, they played teams that they should have beaten. I mean, they played Jake Delhomme, and they played an Eagles team that was good, but certainly wasn't as good as them. Whatever. The point stands is the Chiefs have had to play against a ludicrous amount of guys. Like, if the Bills never win a Super Bowl, they'll be remembered as one of the greatest teams ever to never win. I mean, they're there all the time. The Ravens will be remembered as this team that, quite frankly, is a choking dog in the playoffs. But like, I mean, my God, Lamar's a few votes away from having his 3rd MVP trophy. Burrow has just put together an incredible season. Like they have gone through just ungodly teams in the AFC to get there. They deserve a lot of credit for it.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, that takes us on to the next one, which is the biggest threat to the Chiefs in the AFC West is the Denver Broncos. True or false?
True.
You put them over the Chargers?
Yeah, I do. I do. I've seen some people, and this happens every offseason. Like, I'll tell you who's good, the Chargers. I mean, I'm not trying to be a jerk. Why? What about them? What about them do you look at and go, yeah, look great? I mean, we all went into the offseason saying, all right, look, if you're the Chargers, you got to add a receiver. You've got to fix the interior of their offensive line. And you probably got to get a little younger and a little better on defense in certain spots. And I sit here today with free agency essentially over. They got worse at receiver. They lost Joshua Palmer. And I don't think Palmer's great, but like he's a decent depth guy. They have nobody. Like, I don't care if they signed Mike Williams. Mike Williams did not have 300 yards receiving last year. He played in 18 games because he never had a bye week. When he got traded, he never had one. So 18 games, didn't have 300 yards. They have Ladd McConkey and nobody else. No tight end. The backs, I mean, Najee Harris is not a guy you fear catching the ball. And I'd argue that J.K. Dobbins is better than Najee Harris. Like, Harris is more durable to his credit, but I think Dobbins is the better football player down and down out. The interior, I like that they added Becton, but you still have massive holes on the interior of the offensive line. Defensively, I don't care that they got rid of Bosa. Like, that's fine. Like, he's pretty washed, I think, at this point physically. But, like, who's there? They brought back Mack for a year. They didn't add anybody of note. They lost Poona Ford in the front 7. In the secondary, Asante Samuel Jr. is out on the market. They lost Christian Fulton to the Chiefs. They brought in Dante Jackson. Okay, fine. I'd rather have Fulton and Samuel over Jack, but fair enough. Okay. They got worse. Like, they got worse. And the Broncos, if nothing else, treaded water. But they brought in Evan Ingram. They brought in Hufanga. They brought in Greenlaw. I know there's injury issues with those guys on defense, but to me, I don't know. I think that's a better team than what the Chargers have on paper.
Here's a wild prediction for you. I want to see how the draft plays out. I wouldn't be surprised if the team that finishes behind the Chiefs in the AFC West is the Las Vegas Raiders.
Wow. I cannot get there.
I honestly think, with Crosby on defense And now you bring in Pete Carroll, who's the first competent coach they've had in a very long time. Geno Smith, who's been playing good football, and the second year of Brock Bowers, who had one of the best rookie tight end season of all time. They've got some weapons on each side of the ball that with competent coaching, and I know they've got holes elsewhere, but with competent coaching for Pete Carroll, I wouldn't be surprised if the rest of the AFC West is a bunch of teams floating around 500. And I think they've got the best offensive weapon in Brock Bowers in the whole division. So
Bowers is awesome. My problem with that man is like other than Crosby and like I guess if you want to throw in like a Wilkins or Kuntz, like they're brutal defensively, man. That team and like other than Bowers, my God, who the hell scares you on offense?
Well, yeah, that's fair.
That's the problem. It's like you look at him, and you're like, oh my God, like
Sincere McCormick. You're worried about Sincere McCormick.
I'm not.
Yeah.
No, I am not personally.
Yeah. I think they're going to have a decent season, though. It's going to be fascinating to see. But I think that's how it's going to play out. I think those teams are all going to be hovering around 500 trying to find their footing. Yeah. All right. So then let's just move on. The biggest threat to the Chiefs in the AFC is the Baltimore Ravens. True or false?
False. It's Buffalo.
Yeah.
I have no fear of the Ravens until they prove that anybody should have fear of them in January. Like, that's cool. You're good in October. Awesome. I don't care. I think the Bills are more built to beat the Chiefs offensively than Baltimore. Like just sledgehammering it into the line with Henry, and then throwing a flower. Like the Chiefs can match up with them. They can just they can play that downhill style. Like Nick Bolton has his weaknesses, but one weakness he does not have is meeting somebody in the hole up front. Like Henry's not going to beat you to the outside. He's going to run in between the tackles, and the Chiefs are uniquely built to just deal with that. They funnel everything back in. They're very good at it, and I think you can just put McDuffie on Flowers, take him out of the game. That's kind of it. Like I know Bateman had a good year last year. Their tight ends are a matchup problem for the Chiefs for sure. But I don't feel like that's going to kill you. Like the Bills in a weird way, their roster's not as good as Baltimore's, but Allen has proven a bigger problem over the years for them than Lamar. I think Cook is a more elusive style of back, which I think gives them more problems.
Yep.
Shakir now with McDuffie sliding back inside, I don't think is as big of an issue. I think the Chiefs match up well. I think it's Buffalo, but I will say this, and I don't know if you agree, we haven't thought about this. I think there are 3 teams in the AFC that can get to the Super Bowl, and it's those 3 teams. I just don't think anybody else is doing it.
No, and I think the other thing that makes it harder for the Ravens is they have a much, much more competitive division than the Bills do.
No question.
So if you're the Ravens, you've got to, if you don't get that number 1 seed, you've got to go through the Chiefs and the Bills. And that's what got them last year, right? Maybe you're able to get by one of them. When the Chiefs did it 2 years ago, that was the most nervous I ever was for a Chiefs playoff run, because I was like, that's a tall order. Those are 2 really good quality teams. I think it again proves that number 1 seed in this AFC with those 3 teams at the top is so insanely valuable. You're going in, if you get that number 1 seed, and who are you playing? You're playing the Texans, or maybe another AFC North team that's the Bengals or somebody like that has no defense whatsoever. And the other guy, you're basically playing in back-to-back championship games.
Right. Yeah. No, I mean, look, man, it's a challenge when you've got, and what the Chiefs did a couple of years ago, where they had to go to Buffalo and to Baltimore. That's as tough a gauntlet as any team's ever had to run when you also then include the Super Bowl. It's hard. It's really hard. The Chiefs had the advantage last year, getting the Houston team you felt like they should beat, and they did. And then Buffalo and Baltimore killed each other, and it was like, all right, you got to beat Buffalo, which is hard in its own, in its own right, of course. But no, I think if you're the Chiefs, like I actually was looking, I was breaking down the other day on my pod, like their schedule, and obviously we don't know the when yet, but we know the who and the where. I got to tell you, the Chiefs playing Buffalo this year, I think that game's going to determine who the number one seed in the conference is. Because when you look at it, I think their schedules are pretty even. Baltimore's schedule is brutal, man. Baltimore might have the hardest schedule in the league. I'd have to look and really drill down on it. Their schedule's insane, and part of that, as you mentioned, is the division. The division's so hard. But I think there's a real chance when the Chiefs go to Buffalo, whoever wins that game is the number one seed in the conference, and whoever loses that game is hosting Baltimore in the second round. And it's hard. It's hard. Could you do it? Yeah, Chiefs have shown they can do it. The Chiefs went on the road for both those teams, but it's not a position you want to put yourself in.
Yeah, absolutely not. All right, and then the last one, true or false, Verderame, the Kansas City Chiefs will win their 4th straight Lamar Hunt Trophy and return to the Super Bowl. True or false?
I think as we sit here today, true. I mean, I did on my pod, I did the power rankings, the post-rating power rankings just for the AFC. And I had them 1. I had Buffalo 2. I had Baltimore 3. And my theory was, look, I don't feel like any of these teams this offseason to this point got demonstrably better or demonstrably worse. I think all 3 of them, I mean, the Bills added Palmer and Bosa, but they cut Miller. Like, to me, Miller and Bosa, it's fine. It's a wash. It's whatever. Palmer's, he's fine. They lost Matt Collins. Like, he's better than Matt Collins, but does he move the needle? Not really. They also lost Amari Cooper. So, probably, it's whatever. It's a wash. The Chiefs, they lose Tooney, which does really matter. But they add Jalen Moore. Even if Jalen Moore is just, good, he's miles better than what they had at left tackle. Christian Fulton is a huge difference maker for them because it allows them to do different things defensively. They lost Wharton, but I think they'll replace him in the draft. I'm not too crazy about that. I don't like them losing Justin Reed, but again, I mean, I think Jaden Hicks can come in and play. And, they were just really hurt last year. I mean, the Chiefs basically are getting Rashee Rice and Hollywood Brown. They just didn't have them last season. So I think you can make a case of any of the 3, who's the most improved. I think the most improved is probably the Chiefs if they're healthy. That's probably the argument. The problem I have for getting past the Chiefs being the team to pick, and I know that people have probably watched this and be like, oh, you're a homer. Look, I've picked plenty of times against them. My rationale is the Ravens never do anything in January. They don't. Once they do, call me. They never do anything. They do nothing but lose in January. I don't think outside of those 3 teams there's anybody I look at and I think they can get to the Super Bowl. I think Denver is good, but I think they're limited. Houston's offensive line is going to get them murdered. And they've got one meaningful weapon on the team at this point. Baltimore's win in January. The Bills, I think, are the team that's the biggest threat. But again, I got to be fair. And I've said this. I used to say this when the Chiefs always lost to the Bengals. Until you beat them, I'm picking the other way. Yeah. The Bills never beat them. Never. In meaningful games, ever. They beat them in January, they beat them in October, they beat them in November. They don't beat them in January. They've played them 4 times. And in 4 games, they never beat them. Every single time, it's the same thing. The Bills can't get a pass rush. Mahomes just kills them. And Spags' defense makes 1 or 2 big plays. And that's it. And so I kind of look at it like, I respect the Bills. If I had to pick another team, it would be Buffalo. But man, I don't know. There's almost a part of me that feels like the Bills have had such a good chance the last couple of years to get them, and they just can't do it. They just can never beat them. Why would I change my pick now?
Yeah, I think that's fair. And I'm with you. There's no reason to not pick them to go back. If the line falls apart, I think they lose in the AFC Championship game because I don't know that they can absorb it. But they did it last year. Of course, they had Hall of Famer guard playing left tackle. They won't have that. They won't have a guy like that they can lean on this year. So that's the main thing that I'm concerned about. But if the line does hold up,
that's the thing.
Probably be
I mean,
back.
that's the whole thing. Look, I guess I'll leave it at this. Like, the Chiefs are in New England territory now, where I felt like this for 15 years with the Pats. If you asked me before the season who's going to win the Super Bowl, I just picked New England. Them. I mean, as much as Philadelphia deserves all the credit in the world, look, they played a game that, it's one of the best games I've ever seen a team play that night in New Orleans, okay? Full credit to them. But if I said to somebody, would you take even odds that they're going to get back to the Super Bowl? If you're a bettor, you'd probably say no. Like, it's just, those aren't great odds. You certainly wouldn't say that about Washington, who got to the NFC title game. Like, you probably wouldn't say about the Lions, who the last couple of years have been very good, but haven't been able to quite get there. You're not going to say that. You're definitely not taking those odds in Minnesota or Green Bay or the Rams or Tampa, whoever. You're not taking them on Baltimore based on their playoff history. You're not taking them on Buffalo. You might take them on Kansas City. Like if I gave you just 50%, hey man, straight up, you bet 5, you win 5. Like you'd probably be like, you'd probably think about it if nothing else. Like they're there all the time. And I'll tell you right now, you'd sure as hell take them if I said AFC title game. Are they going to be there? The overwhelming odds are if that team's healthy, they're just going to be there. I mean, you go back and look at New England with Brady. I want to say they made it 13 times.
That's like crazy.
They were just there. Like you just on September or whatever, whenever the season's on the 5th, the 6th, you just basically in Sharpie wrote New England in the AFC title game. And it was like, well, who's going to play them? And that's what the Chiefs have become. I mean, the Chiefs are just there every single year. And until if you're telling me they're going to be in the Final Four, I'm starting out the year with a 25% shot that they're going to win the Super Bowl and a 50% shot they're going to be there. And in some ways, honestly, better than 50, because when they're in that game, they know how to win it. I don't care who they play, Baltimore, Buffalo, none of those teams know how to win that game. They do. They're there all the time in it. So, yeah, I mean, until somebody knocks them off the perch consistently, them.
One last question for you. Do you think the Chiefs, if you look at their wide receiver depth, it's not great right now. And you mentioned maybe they'll take somebody in the draft. There's a few veteran wide receivers out there, and this is a really young wide receiver room with Worthy and Rice and even Hollywood Brown to a degree. Do you think it's worth them maybe after the draft taking a flyer on a guy like Keenan Allen or Tyler Lockett to come in and be sort of that veteran presence and show some of the young guys how to be a great professional?
I wouldn't hate it. I mean, look, I think you've got.
I mean, it's not exactly the character room on the team right now.
It is not. You've got Hollywood. You've got Juju. Juju feels like he's 35 years old. He's like 28.
Yeah.
I'd love to see them draft guy. Like, that's kind of my. Look, I don't think they're going to do it, but man, if they're sitting there at 31 and like Emeka Ibuka is there or something, or Luther Burden, I don't know. I don't hate it. Like Hollywood's got a 1-year deal. It's not like he's going to be there forever. So I do think they need to add another receiver, whether that's in the first 100 picks of the draft or a veteran. I would not hate it. I would not hate them taking, a look at another receiver.
I think they should take a long, hard look at Tyler Lockett after the draft. Once they see how things fall,
yeah,
I think he's still got some juice left. And, you want to talk about a pro to come in there and show those guys a little bit how it's done. He's been that his whole career, so could be interesting. All right, everybody, we're going to get out of here. Let you enjoy the rest of baseball's opening day. We'll be back. Actually, next week, there may not be a show on Thursday because FanSide's got an offsite. We're heading to Arizona. We're going to be in Arizona and Phoenix for an offsite, and so I will be traveling back to Chicago next Thursday. So we'll keep you posted on whether or not there will be an OG hour. Either there'll be a fill-in or there won't be a show. But then we'll be right back at it, getting you ready for the draft. But we'll have our regular slate of shows. Verderame, you got anything coming out on SI people should be aware of? I'm actually on vacation this week, but I feel like I've been nice. I feel like I'm never allowing myself to be on vacation. I'm always sitting there screwing around. But anyway, on Saturday I'm going to the NFL owners meetings. So follow along. I'll be down there. The real tough assignment of Palm Beach. I'll be down there for 3 days, just hanging out, bothering people, getting stories. So follow me on the old Twitter. Check out my podcast after you're done consuming all things Arrowhead Addict, of course. The old Matt Verderame show. And then, an SI. I have a project I'm working on. It's not going to come out for a few more weeks, but it is the ultimate mock draft where I pick the best player ever selected at each pick, 1 through 224. Oh, that's fun. That has been a lot of fun. Common draft era. So when the AFL and the NFL merged, 1967, that's when they started drafting together. That has been a lot of fun. There are a decent amount of Chiefs, actually, that made it. Obviously, probably 1 or 2 of them. But it was a lot of fun to do. I will tell you, though, man, you get in, the back half of the 6th round, and you're really, for most of the picks, there were 1 or 2 clear guys. That guy was actually really good. But, man, there were 3 or 4 at the very, very end. It's how has nobody ever been good drafted at 180?
Like no one ever in 60 years, but no, a lot of fun. I'm writing it up now. I'm filling it out. I hope people check that out. It's been a lot of fun to put together.
Yeah, you should have went a little bit deeper and done back when the draft used to be like 15 rounds or whatever. Mike Golick was a 10th round draft pick.
Yeah, no, none of that comp pick bullshit. It was just I did 32 picks per round, 224. So I know there's going to be somebody out there who's like, "What about Brock Purdy?" Yeah, well, you know what? He was like 250 something. He didn't make it. Sorry. Yeah. Going 224 picks, no comp picks, no nonsense, and it just who is the best player ever taken at every draft slot. Some of them, man, like the first 9-10 picks, some of them were. I mean, you got all-time guys, 5 or 6 of them. But then other ones were easy. Like, you'd be sitting there at number 2. You're like, man, who's number 2? Then you're like, oh, Lawrence Taylor.
Yeah.
Him.
Easy.
He's the guy. So, in some cases, it made it a little easy.
Cool. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us. Shout out to Matt Verderame for joining me this week. Check out his work over at SI and on the @Matt Verderame show on Twitter. And of course, thank you to producer Richard for getting us up and running. We'll see you guys soon. But until then, as always, go Chiefs.